I'm going to show you how to make sloppy joes. Here's the paleo version, and if you're looking for a regular version, that's on the blog also. Let's go. I've got two versions of this recipe. I've got a paleo and I've got a regular. When you're taking things out of a recipe to make a paleo, you have to put back things that are really going to give it a lot of flavor. And that's where things like coconut aminos and balsamic and spices. Instead of chilies in a can, I've got some chilies that are dried, that are pureed, apple cider vinegar, mustard, salt, pepper, a little bit of coconut aminos, balsamic, and then I use some of my very favorite red spices, like Aleppo pepper and sumac. Here's the thing, don't worry if you don't have Aleppo pepper and sumac. Things like chili powder, things like dried chilies, there's so many wonderful things, and I bet you have things in your cupboard. I'm also going to add blended tomatoes, and then I'm going to add some red pepper paste and tomato paste. Expert on chilies, but when I'm doing a sloppy joe that's paleo, I know I'm going to need something extra because I'm taking out sugar and things like that. So I've taken them and I've used them in my spice grinder, and I've just grinded them up. And here it is. Some people might want to dehydrate them, or put them in water. I don't, because that drives me a little crazy. What you have to realize is every time I make a recipe, I change it and do it a little differently because I just love cooking from my heart. Start the sloppy joes. The first part is ground beef, but you could do ground chicken, you could do ground lamb, ground pork. I'm going to do onions, bell peppers, celery, and garlic. And let's get that all sauteing up on the stove, and then I'll show you what comes next. First thing I'm going to do, and I put a little oil in the bottom of the pan. To tell you the truth, my recipe didn't call for it, but I feel like it's going to keep the beef from sticking. Obviously, it's definitely going to be producing its own nice juices. Before I add the onions and everything, I'm just going to brown this a little bit. Oh my God, this pan is amazing. It's that cast iron, but it's enamel coated. Now I'm going to add everything else, and by everything else, I mean the peppers, I mean the onions, I mean the celery, and I use celery leaves also, and everything's on the recipe, so don't worry, although I do change things up every time a little bit. What I like to do is add just some of the ingredients at a time and stir them in. I like to see how the recipe changes. And here's the thing, you really want to get used to cooking with what you have, what's local and in season. So don't feel like when I'm using kind of these out there spices that you need. I've just added in the paprika and it sounds so good. And even though the recipe doesn't call for this extra chili powder, when I'm making the regular version, it has those chilies in a can and they're so darn good, but not so good for you. Mustard, hot sauce, and I've added the apple cider vinegar, which just kind of does a nice science thing and pulls it together. And then this balsamic is really important in a paleo sloppy joe because it's going to give you something really, really lovely. Isn't it kind of looking like it's going to be great? I've got tomato paste in there, and I'm going to add a whole lot of my red pepper paste. Again, not necessary. You can just use 2 jars of tomato paste, and then I'm going to add the tomatoes. What I did do was I went ahead and tasted it. It tasted like it needed more salt to me, and I hadn't put in all of the salt. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to stir it, and then I'm going to put it over in here. I'm going to put it in this roasting pan, and it's called a bain-marie. I'm going to let it cook in this bath. Okay, so you're going to think this is crazy, but this is the way I slow cook. I put this beautiful staub in a roasting pan with some water, and it's going to cook for the next few hours. I'm not an Instapot gal. I don't even like a slow cooker. I like doing it this way. Okay, so here it is. It's in the oven. I got it covered, and 200 for a few hours. Let's see what the magic happens. Let's look in 90 minutes. Taking it out of the oven. It's been about an hour and a half. I just kind of want to see how things are going, and we're going to cover it, put it back in, and we're going to let it get cooking a little bit more and thicken up. Finished product, and definitely come over and visit me at nocrumbsleft on Instagram, one word, and also on my blog, nocrumbsleft.net.